I should have known when they changed the font. Okay. If you guys have seen my out of the theater reaction, you already know by this point that I was not pleased with Halloween Ends. I went into this with a more optimistic feeling than I initially had last year at the end of Kills, because Kills was such a disappointment compared to 2018. And I, at that point, was just feeling not excited at all about the conclusion of this story. And that was a mistake. You know how they say, don't go into it with high expectations? Yeah, don't go into it with high expectations. But I kind of feel like even if I hadn't gone into it with high a higher level of expectation than I did, I still wouldn't like this film because it isn't very well done. And I feel like most of this, honestly, is going to be just cons, despite the fact that it started off okay to me. I like that it took its time getting to where it was going to. I mean, for goodness sakes, we didn't even see Michael Myers. We didn't even see anything about Michael Myers until like 35, 40 minutes into the movie. That was fine with me because they were establishing this new character named Corey, and they were showing Laurie and Allison settled into their new life, trying to cope with the aftermath of the events from Halloween Kills. Laurie has done a complete reversal to the way that compared to the way that she was in Kills. You know, she was like completely badass and just in your face and all about this and that and this and protection and guns and just gonna do and then she's done a complete flip-flop, and she's more domesticated. She's trying to appreciate life more. She's trying to deal with the trauma that she had carried over, from 40 years plus ago. And Allison is also going through her own struggles, and the town and the way that they treat Allison and Laurie, they're kind of sort of like outcasts. It's almost like the town blames Laurie for the stuff that Michael did. There are references to how she, what was it? What was the wording that they used? Something about how she like taunted him or egged him on, and then what happened was a result of that. That wasn't the case. She didn't do that. I mean, he came to her place and was trying to kill her. I mean, she didn't. The townspeople's reaction, while I can understand that sometimes communities will sort of turn on people who have been victims of something, the rationale that was written into the mindset of the townsfolk or the folks of Haddonfield, it didn't make any logical sense. The way they were reacting, or the arguments they were using to justify why they had such hostility, and so it just wasn't handled well. And also what they did with the character of Michael, once again in this movie, it's like they completely tried to rewrite the way he's always been in all the films. And I get that they retconned all the other stuff before, but Michael Myers had sort of this pattern established that was established in the first movie, and also that they followed through with in 2018. Now, they tried to sort of make the argument that, well, in Kills, he's really angry. That's why he does. But it still didn't. It doesn't matter. He can be angry or whatever, but it still didn't fit with the pattern that he had exhibited in these other movies. And so, like the killing en masse, that sort of thing was like the biggest, like huge, like, no, he's never done that. This is so stupid, and people waiting around to be killed, that sort of thing. They once again made a change to him in this movie that has never happened before. And when it became apparent that this was happening, that was the moment when I could sort of detect that that's the moment that I did detect that this movie was going off the rails. It was around the time that Michael first showed up, I think. there's an interaction that happens, and the result of this interaction, or the end result of this interaction, that's kind of redundant, but whatever. At the end of this particular scene, I knew where they were headed with the storyline, and I knew that it did not fit and was not going to work for me. And I had a feeling from that moment on that this film was just going to go off the rails, and fundamentally it did. There were some parts of it that I liked. I liked the end result, but once again, like with Barbarian, I did not like how they got there. Except Barbarian was more solid for a longer period of time than Halloween Ends was. I feel like in a lot of ways, the trailer, or at least the teaser that I saw, I didn't see the full-on trailer, but the teaser that I saw felt like a misrepresentation of what the movie was going to be about. This movie is not really about Michael and Laurie. I'm going to keep this as spoiler-free as possible, but I will tell you that much. This movie is more about this new character that's introduced, and Allison. It's also about the ramifications or the effects of horrific violence and trauma that has happened to a town or a community. They touched on that in Kills. They did a clunky job of dealing with that as well, like they did here. And it felt like the way they handled the original characters of Laurie. And now, Jamie Lee Curtis did a better job generally in this movie with regard to her acting. I felt like she was kind of clownish in Kills. I mean, it was just so disappointing the way it was such a departure from the way she had been in 2018. In this one, she's a little bit better. She does a little bit better of a job, but still, she just does not capture the essence of her performance in 2018. And, I don't know how much of this, so I don't know how many people wrote the 2018 version. I know there were multiple writers involved in Kills, and in Ends, there were 4 writers. When I saw that flash up on the screen, even before the movie had really gotten started, I kind of felt like, oh, that might be a problem. Because it feels like when there's too many hands in the pot, things just can become pretty muddled. And that felt like what happened here. I get where they were trying to go with the storyline, but it wasn't carried off well. And it veered the story off in a direction that I think many, if not most, fans of Halloween won't be happy about. And I saw somewhere on Twitter today someone referring to Halloween fans as the most toxic. They're never happy. Well, it's not that they're never happy. It's just they can recognize crappy writing when they see it. I mean, there's a reason why Halloween 2018 is the most popular out of these 3. And that's because the writing was more solid. Yes, it followed a very similar sort of formula to the original version. The thing with the formulas, so, I've talked about repetitiveness and formulaic and how that gets old after a while when it's the exact same sort of thing that happens. Halloween 2018 took the original and followed the same sort of style, or, hold on a minute. What was I saying when you walked in? Oh, I know what I was saying. I was talking about the formula. It took the original sort of formula, but it added a little twist. So, in the original Halloween, Michael was the predator, Laurie was the prey. In 2018 version, the roles were kind of reversed. Laurie was prepared, and he was more the prey, and she was more the predator. So, while it was similar-ish in formula, it was different. And I feel like that's the same sort of formula that they should have followed with this one and with Kills, but they tried to be stunning and brave and come up with something different and new. And when you veer that far off track with established characters, yes, people are going to be annoyed, and it doesn't make them toxic. They are critical for a reason. And the reason is that the source material that this movie came from, i.e. the writers, it's flawed. Because characters do things that, while in some sort of way it makes a bit of sense, but sometimes these characters, like for example, the character of Allison, she was so changed and she was so radically different from the way she had been in 2018 and also in Kills. And while you could understand that she has this trauma that she's dealing with and loss and everything, she was so radically different. I was like, are they going to turn her into like a Michael Myers type of character? Because that was where it looked like her character was going, because it was just so off the rails, and it just didn't fit. And you just can feel when something's not constructed very well. Like I said in my out of the theater reaction, I just felt it in my bones. I just knew it wasn't working. Just like I knew 2018 was working. And I knew Kills was not working. But I have to say, Kills, I probably enjoy Kills more than this. And that's saying a lot, because Kills is so flawed, I kind of want to forget it even exists. I'm not going to count Kills and Ends at all in this storyline. For me, it's going to be Halloween and Halloween 2018, or Halloween 2, and H2O. Even though Halloween 2 has issues as well. But there's stuff that happens in here that's just, like the same sort of thing that happened in Kills. Injuries that should have killed somebody, and it didn't. Like grievous injuries that should have killed somebody, and it didn't. And there's a character that shows up in here that was grievously injured in Kills, and there's no way in the world, just like the sheriff. He shows up again in Kills. There's no way he would not have. I mean, the dude was he was stabbed in the neck, a grievous wound, a terrible wound in the neck, and he was run over. He should not have survived. I'm glad he survived, but he shouldn't have survived. So it's just, oh my gosh, it was just so convoluted, and the messaging that they were trying to get across was just so clunky, and it just did not work. It just did not work for me. And I wanted to see more of something similar to 2018, but it ended up being more about, oh, come on, Levi. I wanted to see more of something similar to 2018. I wanted to see more of that in Kills and in Ends, but that's not what we got. And in this one, it's even worse than Kills, as weird as it is to say that. So I don't know. It's just, something that was kind of cool. Well, surprising in a way. Darcy the Mail Girl from Joe Bob Briggs' last drive-in show. She showed up. So I was not expecting to see her in there, but I guess it shouldn't surprise me, because David Gordon Green and Jason Blum, they showed up on an episode of Joe Bob Briggs. So I wonder if that's where they kind of coordinated that they would have Darcy the Mail Girl have a cameo or whatever. Anyway, that was just kind of interesting. But I feel like my review is quite discombobulated and all over the place and might not make logical sense. Sorry, I had a coughing fit. I'm getting all choked up. No. I feel like this review is kind of just all over the place, discombobulated. Might not make a lot of sense because I am trying to avoid spoilers, but that's because that's how this film felt. This film felt like that. I mean, it generated all these different emotions, and I was feeling pretty good about it for the first third of the movie, and then for the first third or more of the movie, and then it just, in the middle of watching it, I go on Twitter and I just type no. It just wasn't working. I mean, I was way past the point already of no. In fact, I came very close to thinking about maybe just not even watching the rest of it. Not as close as I did when it came to Moonfall or The Green Knight, but I did think about it. And that's a shame, because this was a storyline that had so much potential, especially after the strong start that was 2018. And I'm just not going to count these two movies. We've got a live stream discussion coming up on Saturday, and I know that Dee and Derek both are not so thrilled with this as well. So I have a feeling this is going to be a repeat in tone that last year's live stream discussion was. And that's a shame, because, damn it. It's not that I went in negative, that I went in not wanting to like it. It's just, this wasn't very good. So. Oh, the font. The font was different. And the intro, like the Blumhouse sort of logo-y stuff that comes up before the Universal logo that comes up. The music that they played at the beginning of Kills, and I think at the beginning of 2018, was sufficiently creepy. This had a completely different tone. And to me, that was the first sign that, even though I didn't really, recognize that that's what that meant. Oh, and also with the pumpkins. What they do with the pumpkins, what they do with the font, the lettering, and that intro Blumhouse screen before they get to the actual, intro of playing the music and everything. Those were different, and there was messaging in the pumpkins that made me a little worried. And the fact that the music that they started off with the Universal logo and the Blumhouse stuff, that it was so totally different. That was also kind of a hint to me that this movie was going to go in a direction that I probably wouldn't like. I wish I could look back on it and say, no, I was wrong. This movie went to great places and was solid, but it just wasn't. And I hate to say that. I hate that's... I wish I could be one of those people that went in and they just love it no matter what, and they think it's like one of the best ever. Nope. So, yeah. I don't have much more to say. I'll say a lot more on Sunday when I can talk spoilers freely. Okay, well, that's it. I'm wrapping this up, you guys.